I joined the Man Whore Podcast Patreon after being a listener for the past couple of years. Now, during this time, my husband was a paying subscriber, but he would send me his favorite episodes so frequently that I started to feel guilty. After all, we were two listeners. I've learned so much from Billy's show. He puts a lot of thought into the content he creates, and I've enjoyed learning about a variety of relevant, important topics, such as ethically produced porn, sex workers' rights, consent culture, and ethical non-monogamy. He's had authors, porn stars, legislators, and educators on the show. He hasn't missed a Wednesday yet. Talk about consistency. As a Patreon member, I've also enjoyed additional perks, like bonus episodes, extra sexy content, and access to the private peep show. So thanks, Billy, for expanding my horizons.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, and Tom Steyer. Congratulations on having more time to fuck your significant others. This is Billy Presida, and you are listening to the Man Whore Podcast. All right. I got my fingers crossed for Lizzie. It's Super Tuesday morning right now, and I just want to stand for my girl. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sex Positive Podcast, hosted by a comedian that's not a comedy show. This week on the pod, I've got on musician Tom Goss. His new album, Territories, is available now in all the places that you get your music things. This guy, holy shit, has an incredible story. Like, unbelievable. Just the entire time I sat across from this dude's big, beautiful blue eyes thinking, no way. And I'm so excited to share his story with y'all in a little bit. But first, show dates, people. Show dates. Okay. Grand Rapids, Michigan. Next week, I'm going to be performing at Gilda's Laugh Fest. You can see me March 10th at Creston Brewery, 9 p.m. And March 12th, Dr. Grin's, 9 p.m. Those are both free shows, I believe. So come on out. How often am I in Michigan? Lebanon, New Jersey. Keep the date open, March 25th. I don't know the name of the venue yet, but I don't think Lebanon, New Jersey is terribly big. So I hope you can make it out and see me there. And Williamsburg, Virginia. March 27th, I'll be performing at Revolution Golf and Grill. So come on out and see me if I'm passing through you. And folks, we have a major, massive Man Whore Con update. Don't skip forward yet. We're changing the weekend. We're bumping it up a week. Man Whore Con, I promise not to change it again. Man Whore Con is happening August 20th to 23rd, 2020. August 20th is a Thursday, so really there's an informal hang that night. But it's primarily August 21st to 23rd. We're gathering in New York City. We're having a grand old time. We're doing our 4th year of the thing. I'm up for re-election as a sex podcaster. And just like in November, we're hoping for high turnout in August. Okay, so start blocking out those dates. Save them now. I'll even tell you this one. Barring some sort of a miraculous venue deal that I come across, we're taking Man Whore Con to Brooklyn, people. Brooklyn! Brooklyn! Oh my God, what was that? Because even gangsters in Brooklyn don't do that. So that's a strange one. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to keep Man Whore Con to the Williamsburg, Bushwick, Greenpoint area, and possibly the Village over in Manhattan, because I love the Village and I love to share the Village with my fans. It is my favorite neighborhood in New York City. But yeah, so we're having Man Whore Con again this year. I hope you can make it. It's so much fucking fun. And if you're newer to the podcast and you're like, what the fuck is Man Whore Con? Is that just like a weekend convention of male sex workers gathering together, figuring out how to convince women to pay them for sex that they can technically get for free, even though it's not guaranteed it'll be good, like it is with us? No. However, I'm happy to talk strategy with any other male hookers out there. No. Man Whore Con is a fan meetup weekend in New York City with fellow like-minded listeners of this show. It's a gathering of a variety of people with a similar sex-positive vision for our society and who also happen to love this stupid dumb guy's voice. We got people on all different parts of all different spectrums, okay? We got straight people, we got queer people. We have couples, people come alone. We have monogamous people, poly people, kinky people, vanilla people, people who like to get naked in front of others and never nudes. You're all welcome at Man-Whore-Con. And over the coming months, I'm going to be telling you more and more. I'll be announcing events, announcing sponsors, announcing any sort of Airbnb group situations that might come about. Weekend passes will go on sale soon. So stay tuned to that. Don't skip the intros. Make sure you open the newsletter if you're on the mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list, go to manwhorepod.com. Get on the mailing list. But I'm so excited for Man-Whore-Con 2020. And I can't wait to see you there. Oh, yes. By the way, I mentioned the mailing list. Can you take a moment, dig into your spam folder, your promotion folder, your social folders, okay, in your email. Go find my mailing list and give them an open, mark them not as spam, drag them into your primary folder because my open rates have been down recently, and I think it's because you're not seeing them. And there's like some really important announcements and stuff in there you don't want to be missing, especially as Man-Whore-Con approaches closer and closer. And before I move on, I do want to read an email that from a listener. I've read it before, but I'm going to read it again because it is a great endorsement of Man-Whore-Con. It comes from a fellow, we're going to call him Jay. He and his wife have attended all 3 Man-Whore-Con weekends. I don't know off the top of my head. I can't think if anyone else has technically attended all 3 weekends. I guess Emily. Yeah, I guess Emily too. So this is an email I got after one of their attendances, just to give you a sense of how fucking awesome this weekend is. He writes, Billy. Oh, Billy. Man-Whore-Con. Words can barely describe the time we had. It's a feeling, more like a bunch of them, that we're savoring after the weekend. Being part of a significantly growing event, instant inclusion into an awesome group of friends, laughing and learning, and the overwhelming sense of doing something awesome. Man-Whore-Con was more fun than adults should expect to have. We needed no sleep, and just about none occurred. New York was amazing. It felt like a week of party that occurred in 48 hours. Now, I'm not going to read all the dirty details of everything that occurred that he describes here, because you're just going to have to come to fucking Man-Whore-Con to find out. But I will read this from it. The whole con crew made its way to Midtown for an after party in a swanky condo that was absolutely legendary. We were rock stars that night, porn stars that night, great friends that night. It was Man-Whore-Con. We miss everyone, and the special someone even more. Just a little hint, that special someone, not me. Yeah, no, just a divorcee from Washington. Dude, your fans love you, your friends love you, and your sponsors took great care of you and us. Thanks to them all, especially Motor Bunny, who was responsible for a memory of you riding the device that none of us will ever forget. Smooches, J&L. And J&L, who are stupid attractive, are planning on attending this year. So, save those dates, August 20th to 23rd. Okay. Tomorrow I've got a bonus episode coming out for all of my $5 and up members on Patreon with the academic Simone Fansarlus. Gosh, I hope I still said that right. She is the author of a book, Playing Monogamy, and we talk a whole bunch about it in her bonus show. Right now, we're going to just introduce you to her and talk a little bit more about her work. All right, and now I'm here with... sorry, help me out with the last name. Just help me out.
Okay.
Help me out with the last name. Why am I pretending I'm going to do this off mic? I'm not going to cut this out. Just help me out with the last name. I'm a dumb American.
Okay. So it's Van Sarlos.
With like almost like an F.
Yeah.
Like okay. So Simone Fansarlos.
Wow, that was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, you should have heard me like years ago when I tried to do Dr. Jana Vrangalova. That was, I took a deep breath after I was finished.
Well, that's good. We should practice people's names.
Yeah. Well, Simone, we just recorded an awesome bonus episode that's coming out tomorrow on Patreon, which is dope. We were talking about your new book. Well, not so new book, your newly translated book, Playing Monogamy. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what your book is on?
Well, Playing Monogamy is mostly about how we think and live monogamously and how we could do otherwise. So it doesn't just talk, it's not just a how-to book about like, oh, we could live non-monogamous or polyamorous, but it's talking about the ways that we attribute value in life to things through, for example, hierarchy, through linear time. So saying like, oh, we've been together for such a long time. It means that it's valuable. Taking that aspect out, taking hierarchy out. So not saying like, I'm prioritizing this one person and therefore I'm showing you that I love you very, very much. But actually saying like, hey, maybe we don't need the categories of you are my one and only in order to say I can still continuously value you.
You can be very special without being the most special. It's like, why does everyone have to be the most, the best, the top, the number one? Not enough people are okay with number 3. And there's a lot of people who are number 3 who aren't even worth number 3. And so just take number 3 as a win. And what I really loved about our conversation, in the bonus ep was how you just were like, I want to get rid of hierarchies everywhere, not just within relationship models, but with gender. Like you were saying, I don't want to be equal to men. I want to be a woman. I don't even want there to be a thing like a woman. I just want to do what Simone does. And hierarchies kind of everywhere in life. Which when I think about it, we have those all over the place. You have your favorite book, you have your favorite this, you have your favorite bodega, you have your favorite child, your favorite brother, your favorite,
Yeah, and you don't even have to have that favorite.
Do you not like the concept of best friend?
Not so much, no.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because that indeed, like, it attributes another sort of like extra special value to something, right? And for me, it would be the practice of attributing value without having to prioritize, which would mean that you could value everything around you instead of having to say, this is special, and like isolating something. It has to do with isolation. It has to do with property. This is my best friend, right? It's not only like at the top of the level, it's also mine. And I think I'm trying to think a lot through language, and like this is why it's called playing monogamy also, is that this element of play is there. So I look at monogamous love from this play element where I'm seeing it as a performance, right? We're performing monogamy. And it doesn't make it less real necessarily. Actually, I love performance. I think performance is what we can do. But it just means that there's different kinds of performances that we could also engage with.
Such as?
Such as non-monogamy.
Okay.
No, such as not having a hierarchized way of looking at other people.
Well, you're also non-monogamous yourself, correct? Now, I know when I asked you relationship status, you were like, it's complicated. But generally, like one of the things we didn't get a chance to touch upon in the bonus ep was, okay, so let's say we're getting rid of the hierarchies, which the relationship anarchists love, even though we acknowledge together that labeling yourself a relationship anarchist now makes you not one. But okay, we got rid of the hierarchy. So, okay, everyone has value, but within relationships, really the main thing with, non-monogamous people is that is a finite resource is time. So how do you, as someone who does not like to have hierarchies in your life, how do, amongst partners, do you relegate the time? Do you now or ever have someone where that person kind of has first dibs at that time, at Saturday night?
Again, we categorize through time. Like it's this idea of like being the first is better, right? But like, why is it actually? And I know like I'm negating because you already gave such a nice representation of like how you are living non-monogamy. So I'm like, I don't know if I have good stories about how I do this. I think that for one, I think it's super helpful for me that I don't live, for example, a 9-to-5 office life where when you're talking about Saturday doesn't mean specifically something to me as a freelancer.
Tuesday afternoon has the same value as a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So for you, you're like at midnight, you don't care if you're first, second, or fifth to get kissed, in the new year. You don't mind in that.
No, and I think that's for me personally is that from a polyamorous perspective, I would often, I think, be described as solo poly. Because, for example, this New Year's I spent. I'm not gonna say where I spent it.
Alone?
But no, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Play
no,
party? That was
no,
my second.
no. But I did make sure that I couldn't kiss anybody because I was at a party where I didn't know many people, which I sometimes really enjoy that, like to have to know beforehand. Like this is also the element of play, to know beforehand that I will not be there with a lover or somebody that might expect something or like might expect a kiss or me expecting something. It's also sometimes a way to habitate or like to train myself in order to think about like, what am I expecting? And I enjoyed like seeing so many people kiss.
Yeah.
It was a bit, like, okay, this is exactly what I expected. Like people are kissing at midnight. But what I did like was that I was surrounded by mostly 50-year-old and older, and they were like kissing all over, like tongue was everywhere, and I was like,
yeah,
great.
I get it,
Yeah.
Cheryl. Well, if someone's gonna read your book, Playing Monogamy, and they want to try to adjust or pivot to getting rid of these hierarchies in their lives and not care if they're the first kiss at midnight, what's one tip you might give someone who's trying to kind of realign their thinking?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying to not care, right? Like if you have certain feelings, just have them and let them be. And I think that the moment that you allow yourself to live with negative feelings, it already becomes easier to digest them somehow, by which I don't mean like, like just let it be. It's a question of like, do you allow yourself to have those feelings and not judge that you should not have those feelings? Because, what happens often is if you feel jealousy, for example, but you feel like from that jealousy you have the right to get angry, that's when the problem starts, right? Like where if you can just feel jealous, but you intellectually you agree with that not being a problem or that not leading to judgment, I think that already helps to separate that, sort of like to separate the feeling from what you ideally would want. But also, like, I mean, for me,
Because what you're suggesting is a paradigm shift for people.
yeah, and I think that thanks for saying that.
Even the poly people, the concept of non-hierarchy is a paradigm shift. So it's like it's not going to happen like that. But I got to imagine there's got to be maybe a tip or a trick to at least start getting yourself away from these hierarchies.
Read my book.
We go. I mean,
no,
that's a good tip.
It's very short book too. No, but I think that why I'm evading like this sort of good answer that you're expecting from me, besides not being American, so not being good at this.
There's a long running gag in the bonus episode about how Europeans, I think, are smarter than Americans.
Yeah, which is bullshit. No, but I think what I do think is important to say again is that it is not a how-to book. So I'm not giving any tips, but what I do is that I hope that I lure you into a certain language and like how I'm thinking. Like I kind of take you along with how I think, and like through that, I think what opens up through that is that there are other ways of categorizing. There's other ways of allowing yourself to look at the world, so that you do not need categories as much in order to understand that you can still feel. And I think in that sense, it's mostly about dismantling the way that we use language, the way that we talk, the way that we ask questions. So that could be a tip. I can give you a tip.
Maybe stop using the superlatives all the time. Could be one way. Not always saying best, top, most.
Yeah, and also not saying +1, right? Not this invitation. I mean, we already had the holidays, so I hope we're free for a while. But like this idea of, bring your +1. I mean, and also like, do you have
Fuck you, I'm very popular. I have +3.
Yeah, make it plural.
Yeah.
That would be a tip. Yeah.
Well, Simone, again, everyone, the book is Playing Monogamy. You can't get it on an Amazon. There's a very specific place to get it. I'm going to have a link in the show notes if you want to check out the book. And if they want to follow you on the social media, where can they find you? Instagram. And what's your handle?
S van Saarloos, which is SvanSaarloos.
Simone, thank you so much. This was very fun playing Monogamy with you. Ayo, okay. And I hate myself. I want you to say goodbye to everybody one more time.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Go check out the book, go check her out on social media, and go check out her bonus episode out tomorrow. Now, before I get to this week's guest, Tom Goss, I do want to talk about another event occurring in the more immediate future than ManWhoreCon. Our 6-year anniversary of the Man Whore podcast. Yeah, I say it's our anniversary. I think we share that together. I put in a lot of work producing this show every Wednesday for how many? 308 consecutive Wednesdays. But you all have tuned in pretty much every week and enjoyed so much of this show and so much of my life. Honestly, if you've listened to most episodes, you know me better than my own family. And that's why I love to celebrate the anniversary of the pod, which is coming up on April 16th, next month. It's coming up soon. And to celebrate, by the way, you can consider this either an early birthday present or a really late Christmas present or just an opportunity to be a part of something bigger. But on April 16th, I want us to have 600 members, 600 fan whores in our Patreon community. Yes, I want 600 patrons for 6 years on April 16th. Can we do it? I think we can. We're already over 200 members. We've got 5-6 weeks to go. And there are thousands and thousands of you listening to this right now. I know sometimes people tell me that Patreon membership, it's just not something in their budget. And that's why I totally understand. I'm not even telling you to pledge today. I'm telling you to start saving up that loose change in your pocket, in your cup holder, in that spare junk drawer, because membership starts at just $2. And then I want you to become a member in April before April 16th. Hey, if you have to cancel your membership on April 17th, that's okay. I won't blame you. So long as we reach, 600 members for 6 years of slutty podcasting on or before April 16th. I think we can do it. I hope you do too. And I hope you'll join us over at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now for the fan whore appreciation moment right quick. Oh yeah, this is the part of the pod where I like to give a few shout outs to members of my fan whore community on Patreon. Membership includes access to our super secret Facebook group, The Champagne Room, which is a wonderful sex positive space to discuss kinks, relationship styles. Where do you hide the sex toys when you've got kids? What books are you reading these days? It's just a great place for listeners to connect with each other. And I like to thank everybody by giving them a little shout out. So right now I want to say thank you to Amy Bow. Bow chicka Bobo. Amy, thanks for being a member. Hope to see you in the Champagne Room soon. Shout out to Joseph Pearson. Oh, I love seeing the Kiwis representing. I want to wish New Zealand luck on their weed legalization efforts. Okay, make it happen, dude. You support two great causes, me and legal weed. I want to give a shout out to Rebecca Lake. I am glad that you're supporting the pod. And I want to give a shout out to Crystal Sajad. Gosh, I hope I'm saying that right. She kind of looks like the hot mom at the PTA meeting, She looks like she knows how to take down minutes, but also stick 2 fingers in your butt because she knows it actually feels good. Even if you're kind of nervous about it because you think it makes you gay, but she's like, nah, don't be so suburban. Okay, it's going to feel amazing. Yeah, I don't know. She just gives me that vibe. I don't know what it is. And I'm glad that she's a member of the fan whore community. And I also want to say, oh gosh, I am so sorry to Hal. I fucked up your shout out. I confused you with a different member who's in Michigan. I know you're not in Michigan. I know you're a Midwestern beauty whose makeup game is on point. And I just want to apologize and thank you again for being a member. And you too can become a member today or sometime before April 16th by visiting patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now for this week's guest, Tom Goss. Gosh, the dude is just has a fascinating story, and his album Territories, you'll hear my opinion on it in a few seconds. Let's get to Tom Goss. So, by the way, do you know that your this album Territories?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know it's a sex club album? It is 100% background of sex party music.
I mean, I definitely feel like I would like to have sex to it. Like, that was definitely a point of that.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of sex and sexuality happening on the record. Like, it's a very, it's a journey, both physically and emotionally, but also very much sexually. And so I definitely want that to come through the music.
Yeah, that's definitely, if anyone, like, I feel like if you don't have a sex playlist and you just want some good mood music, you can just play that through and it's going to like achieve the purpose.
I really like that. I do sometimes get notes from people telling me that they were having sex to my music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's a little weird, but I'm also like, that's cool because I know what I like to listen to when I'm having sex. And I know like what kind of like, and I know like if I want to have more emotional sex or more chill sex or like, it's so for me, I love that music for those reasons. But
what is the music you like to listen to?
My favorite
what do you put
music to have sex to is M83.
Okay.
Right? Because it's very cinematic. It's very cinematic and there's a lot of really big builds and falls. Right. And so for me, if I want to have like a very wonderful intimate evening, I want that to last. And I think, I think we think of sex as there being this end game to it, right? And I guess there is, especially as men, right? And there's a build to that end game. But I think if you're doing it right, there's a lot of builds and falls. And you can M83, I think, is great in doing that and swell, and whatever you're doing when, say you're making out, you can make out more passionately, and then it falls. And then you move on to the next chapter of where it goes from there, and then you move big and it falls. It's really great for me.
Yeah, the only thing people tell me they do, I don't have people say they fuck to the podcast, but I do get people who say like, "Oh, I got really wet or really hard listening." I'm like,
really?
That's a whole different kind of uncomfortable feedback that you're like I'm proud, but like I don't know if this is TMI or not. But like for now, I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've just become accustomed to saying thank you to almost anything.
Yeah,
I take it all as a compliment. You have to, otherwise it's like you think about it too much.
yeah. This is a good time to say I'm sitting down right now with musician Tom Goss.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
I think I listened to Berlin like 3 times this morning driving
good,
over here.
Good, I like that.
Yeah, it's in my head now.
Uh-huh.
That's quite the story. That was the big thing that Nikki sold me on. Was like, no, this happened.
Yeah.
And so you've had quite the transition in your relationships.
Sure.
From monogamous, I was assuming, to it seems like full blown polyamory.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really put a label on it, but I guess that's the label for it. I mean, at least for me.
Sure.
It's interesting because I think in relationship, that's kind of defined by 2 people. And I don't really feel like my husband's living that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. He's not polyamorous. He definitely has boyfriends and he has other lovers and so on and so forth. But he doesn't have another lover to the depth that I do. In terms of the emotionality of it. So,
but he was the first one to kind of stray from out of the marriage.
Yeah, so this was definitely his idea and his desire, and I wanted to be supportive of him on his journey, which triggered a different journey for me. And I don't really think that polyamory is what he wants either. I don't think he wants to be in love with another person or be in a relationship with another person. Whereas at this point in my life, I am in love with another person and I am in a relationship with another person. So I guess the only reason I shy away from the idea of I'm polyamorous is I feel like then that makes my husband polyamorous because shouldn't we be on the same page? I guess I don't know.
I mean, I think one can definitely identify as non-monogamy because poly is just kind of underneath the non-monogamy umbrella.
I really consider just non-monogamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also tend to call myself non-monogamous because I'm still not sure because I just haven't like done the poly. It's more like I know that I have the capacity to love more than one person at the same time, and it hasn't 100% overlapped yet.
Sure.
But I know it's there. However, I can't really say I'm not in a poly relationship now because my girlfriend that of like 6-7 months now, she's poly. She lives with her boyfriend of over 2 years. So
okay. So you're kind of the secondary relationship in her world.
Definitely not she doesn't treat us as a hierarchy. There's a little bit of implied stuff just in terms of the house, or at least especially like in the beginning when we first started dating.
Yeah.
There was more of like asking permission about me staying over. Like that was a big hurdle the first time I was able to stay over.
Oh,
And it was because he
interesting.
was sleeping out. And then like it was a different hurdle when I got to stay over and he was also going to be staying there because they have a guest room.
So you sometimes stay the night with her when her boyfriend, whom she lives with, is there as well.
Correct.
Oh,
And
that's
so I'm still navigating because
How
that's
does
new
that
for
feel?
me. Because he and I don't have his number. So we have been totally cordial in person.
Yeah.
And everything's fine. I tried to like make conversation at like a Halloween party once, but it felt very unnatural. But then again, I feel unnatural talking to anyone at a party.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was.
I mean, from what I can tell, you're unnatural in any conversation.
Oh, one-on-one, I'm great. But if there were
I know, I'm kidding,
10
I'm
people,
kidding.
this is fine, but in 10 people were around us, I would be in a very different mindset.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So he and I are fine. So it's not like he doesn't like me, which is like, it is weird when you date someone who is dating someone else. Because you almost feel the pressure, not just that this person likes you. I want them to like me too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's interesting, you mentioned Berlin, and Berlin was very much the start of the record for me. But there's a song on it. And every single song on this record is my life. Every single song is what happened. And I think for me, the things that we're talking about are the things that I wrote about, because it is weird and nobody's talking about it. Right. So for me, the song Quayside, which is the first single off the record, is the lyric is how I long to do this right. Where's my line? Tell me which parts of me should I hide? Right? And it's kind of like the same exact thing. It was my first experience going to London, meeting my lover, and going and staying in his home. And I didn't know what that meant.
Like, what are the rules here?
What are the rules? Can I hold your hand?
Yeah.
If we're walking down the street, can I hold your hand? Like,
And this is in his home. Did he have someone else at
With
home
his
as well?
husband.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, his husband was out of town.
Can I kiss you in front of the, like, if he's out of town? But
Yeah,
it's
like-
little rules like that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know where you're overstepping. New
Exactly.
Year's Eve, Megan and I were supposed to be not with her other boyfriend on New Year's Eve, but he got let off his bartending job early that night. So he came to meet up with us. So midnight comes around. It's like,
Who do you kiss?
Who kiss? Well, it's more like who kisses first.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we've kind of passed the like I'm allowed to show affection in front of him. Okay. But it's like who goes first? I just gave it to him because I was like he's got tenure, so like let him go first, and then I'll kiss second. I was like that just seemed fair to me, but I
Yeah.
don't know. There's no rule book for it. All we have to do is just ask each other that terrifying question of what am I allowed to do?
And did you ask?
Yeah, I mean, well, so New Year's Eve, I just said, hey, if you and him want to have the first kiss at midnight or have it approaching midnight, and I'll do the one after midnight. That's fine with me. And it ended up not being a big deal at all because he doesn't care about New Year's Eve. But
Okay.
you know, but these are these little nuanced situations.
Yeah. And you run up against them almost on a daily basis, especially early on, because we live in a society that constructs relationship in one way, and we learn whether somebody's teaching that or not. We're seeing it in all of our media, where everybody's constantly talking about it, and we're learning about it. Not in school, obviously, but just through the messaging that we're given from everybody around us. And then all of a sudden, our situation is different, and we don't have any guidance. We don't have any role models. We don't have any way to know how do you deal with that situation.
Right.
And so that's really for me, for me as an artist, it was such interesting territory to just live in.
And then also, you know, we're in a society that's just getting comfortable, like is just starting to put, you know, queer relationships into the media narratives.
Of course.
So there's also rules of just like, okay, we're two men in this city. What, you know, I don't know how familiar you were with that city, but it's like, can we hold hands in public? Can we show affection?
Yeah.
Are you in a place in your life where we can show affection in public? So there's even that layer on top of it.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point. You know, we were in. My husband and I were traveling in Europe this year. We were in like Croatia, and there were times when I didn't know. You know, we're in Hungary. Or
Yeah.
we're in Croatia. Are these places that I can hold hands? Where can I hold? And I'm kind of getting to the point in my life where I'm like, fuck all of that. I'm not visiting your country if I don't feel comfortable. Like I'm not spending my money in that way if I don't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, and it's kind of sucks because I want to see every place in the world and I want to do all these other interesting things, but I also want to live like an honest, authentic life and love in the way that I love, and be really open and honest about that.
I want to get back a little bit to the rule
Sure.
stuff, but in a second. But when you want to travel, how do you figure out where you feel like you'll feel comfortable and safe?
Haven't figured
Just
that
existing.
out. I honestly haven't figured that out yet. I mostly, both my husband and I are really adventurous when it comes to travel. We both just get excited about places that we've never been. And I've only started thinking about this recently because I started going to places where I'm like, oh, wait a second. This feels uncomfortable to me now. Now I'm in this place that I've always wanted to go. I'm seeing these things that I was going to do, but I feel like a fraud doing it.
What is it around you that makes you feel fraudulent?
Well, there's a lot of countries where it's really dangerous to hold hands, and it's dangerous to be affectionate. And me, my authentic self would be that thing. So if I'm purposely not holding if I'm consciously thinking about holding somebody's hand and not doing it, or consciously thinking about being affectionate to somebody and not doing it, it's not only taking away from my experiences and having a good time, but I'm also playing a role. Like I'm playing a character that this country wants me to play, or this neighborhood wants me to play, and that in and of itself feels fraudulent.
Yeah, and I can't imagine having to navigate every fucking little place and thing and which actions
You do. And as a gay person, you constantly are like we're in New York City right now, and for the most part you can walk around holding hands, but there's sometimes when you turn the corner you're like, this doesn't feel like the best thing.
And
is
that
doing.
just the people you're seeing on the street? Is it?
It's a feeling. It's like anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure that you've walked down the street and you've been listening to your music and you've been having the most fun time, and you thought, oh, I should take one of my earbuds out. Like I need to be a little more
aware of my surroundings,
aware of what's happening. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad neighborhood. It's just like we have evolved to have these senses, and we've more or less forgotten about them. But there's moments when those senses hit us and we listen to them or we ignore them. Like, but a lot of times listening to them is a smart thing to do.
So like when you go to London to visit your lover and you're still trying to, and you're in him and his husband's home.
Yeah.
Are you asking the explicit questions of what you can and can't do?
Absolutely.
And what was that process like? Was that the first time you've had to ask those things?
Yeah,
I know we're going really backwards in trajectory.
It's okay.
I'm sure we'll end with the you walking in, but
it's fine. It's fine. It was really interesting to me because I'm a very straightforward person, and I'm really lucky that my lover is as well, and I can ask really difficult conversations, ask difficult questions, and have difficult conversations with him. So I remember getting off the train, and we had met several times in different places and had great times, and then I was getting off the train and I was getting into a car, and we were going to his house, and I said, "Hey, I need to know what's going on. When can I hold your hand? When can I not hold your hand? When can I lean over and kiss you? When can I be affectionate to you? I want to be really respectful to your husband, and I want to be really respectful to you in the life that you live. And when I leave here, you're going to have to continue living it. Yeah. So if, all of a sudden your neighbor sees me holding your hand and that makes you uncomfortable, makes it uncomfortable for you to live your life next week when I'm gone, I don't want to do that.
It's like, which friends am I your date, and to which friends am I your friend from the States?
Yeah. And to be honest, for me personally, that's been, the past couple months have been really great for me because the record is out. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have no secrets in the world. I spent so many years writing, like really positive acoustic pop music about how much I love my husband and was in a monogamous relationship with him and all that kind of stuff. And it was really scary to write about something so different and to create music so different. And I was really fearful of it in a lot of ways. And to put out this record has been really great because all the things that you're saying, I don't feel like I have to hold. My parents were at my show in Chicago. I feel like I don't have to keep secrets from them. If anybody wants to know something about my life, they can ask because my life's out there, know.
Well, so how long have you been with your husband?
15 years.
15 years. And how'd you two meet?
Yahoo Personals.
Yahoo. Hey, a note to Nikki. put that in the head somewhere on Yahoo Personals.
Yeah.
What?
It's hilarious.
You're literally the only person I've met who's met anyone on Yahoo Personals. I forgot Yahoo Personals was a thing.
Well, I think
and I'm a Craigslist guy myself. I forgot Yahoo Personals.
I think if you're like a person of a certain age or have met somebody at a certain time,
Sure.
maybe it was. You know,
Okay.
I'm sure Yahoo Personals was great for a lot of people. But yeah, we met on Yahoo Personals. I was training to become a Catholic priest. I had just left seminary. I met him probably 2 weeks after I left seminary and just immediately madly fell in love.
And you left seminary because
Because it was horrible. There was a lot of people that I didn't feel like were good. It was a very damaging and dangerous place for me to be. There was several people that I lived with that wanted relationships with me that I didn't want with them, that were both emotional and sexual, and that was really difficult for
priests
me.
or fellow seminary students.
Seminary students. It was really, I didn't really know how to manage it. It was a period of my life. I mean, I was probably 22, 23, and I didn't really know how to establish and maintain boundaries that worked for me. And I think my openness to the world and my openness to people was getting me in trouble because people were falling in love with me in ways that I wasn't falling in love with them.
Right.
And then it was getting kind of creepy and stalkery.
I have found that as a fellow beautiful blue-eyed person,
that's what
that
it
is a thing that won't happen.
People fall
they
right
just
into your
fall
eyes.
into the ocean of our eyes and they can't get out. So who put out the ad? You or him on Yahoo?
I think he responded to I don't think either of us had an ad.
Oh, okay.
I think he saw my profile and
Oh, it was like a
messaged me.
profile based. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's what it was. And I think he reached out to me and I reached out to him. And it was kind of funny. The day that I left seminary, it was really horrible. And I kind of blew up finally from trying to hold it. Cause I was also keeping it all to myself and not telling people what was going on.
Okay.
I thought I could manage it. And then by the time it got too much to manage, it was kind of like I was broken, in a way. Cause I essentially had my neighbor was stalking me.
Your neighbor at the seminary.
Yeah, so he was like really pressuring me a lot, and we shared a wall, literally.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine your stalker living
Just
a
knocking
foot
on
and a
the
half
wall, just being
away
like,
from you, yeah,
Come snuggle.
yeah. So it was difficult, and
And did you report that to
eventually I
people?
did.
'Cause,
Eventually I did when I woke up at 3 a.m. and he was at the foot of my bed.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you weren't at seminary, if you were anywhere, that would be a problem. I
Yeah.
just feel like in the whole Christianity game, they'd be like, oh, that's extra not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak to why people do what they do, but I know that was horrible for me.
Yeah.
And so so finally I started talking about it. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Then he got kicked out, and then not even a week later, it started happening again. And that's kind of when I left. And
What's going through your mind when like the second stalker shows up?
well, he was really one of my best friends at the time, and in retrospect, it seems that he probably joined seminary to be closer to me, which was kind of weird in retrospect. But
That's a lot of infatuation if you're prepared to make a vow to celibacy just to
Exactly.
be closer to a person.
it's a lot, and I think at that point in time, after going through that experience with the first one there, that I was just kind of like, dude, you got to deal with this. I can't really talk to you. Like in it kind of turned into this thing where he would go kind of behind my back and who was starting a bunch of rumors essentially, and I didn't really realize this. And then when it clicked for me, what was happening, because I was just speaking a lot to my formators because I had been going through this thing. And then they started asking me stranger and stranger questions, which I just didn't really.
Strange, like sexual or
Yeah,
strange?
kind of. Yeah. Like about my relationships with my friends and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, what are you talking about? But then I realized that it was
Yeah.
this other guy kind of going behind my back because he thought I was doing that to him.
Did you find a lot of other gay men in seminary?
Everybody's gay. Everybody's gay.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you? Is it like your standard? I can tell because I can tell, or is it like does something happen?
No,
or
I mean
talk,
it's not
or-
like it's a secret. Especially the community that I was with was very open. I would probably say like 90% of the people in my community were gay. But I would say as a general rule, and again, I'm just making stuff up. I have no data to prove any of this. But I would say probably 70% of people in religious life, at least Catholic life, are gay. That would be my estimate. Well over 50%. Well over 50%.
What do you think drives them over? I guess to speak to yourself, like what drove you to even go to seminary?
I think that people
especially as a gay man in that time period.
I think that people who are gay are more interested in religion. I think that's kind of been the case for eons since humans existed. I think if you look back at like shamans and religious leaders throughout the course of history, a lot of them have been gay. I mean, maybe we didn't label it as such, but I also think, especially when you look at something like Catholicism, there's definitely people that are going there to hide. There's definitely people that I can tell you as a gay man, it was much easier from my parents to have a gay son when their gay son was going to be a priest.
And why is that?
You don't have to talk about it. You just have to talk about your priest.
Right.
Your son who's a priest. You don't have to talk about your son and his husband, or your son and his husband and his boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think's easier to tell the other people, that you're neighbors with in the Midwest?
Were you going to seminary to hide?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I really don't think so. For me, I'm really grateful for seminary because I think it's also where, or I don't think, but I know it's also where I discovered that I was gay. I didn't self-identify as gay. I really felt more.
Really didn't? You wrestled in college. I feel like that's where that would confirm something.
Exactly, which is why it never confirmed anything for me, because I'm attracted to bears. Like I'm attracted to big men
outside your weight class.
Yeah,
there we go.
So there's nobody that I was wrestling with 18 to 22-year-old super fit, like quote unquote hot men, and I wasn't attracted to them.
I want the 205 weight class. It's like,
I want the 305 weight class. Let's be honest. It's true.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me. It never occurred to me to point my sexual attraction in that way. I thought I knew I wasn't attracted to women, and I'd date women, and we'd make out, and it just wasn't doing anything for me. And I didn't think I was attracted to men because I showered with 60 men every single day, and it didn't make my penis hard.
Yeah,
it wasn't something for me. So I really just self-identified as asexual. Which honestly is more alienating than being gay,
especially then, because that's like pre Tumblr popping off, really. I feel like that's where a lot of the aces hang out, is on Tumblr.
Do they? I
feel like that's where they found a lot of the internet. The great thing about the internet is a lot of people of the various identities are able to find their tribes, and aces seem to dig Tumblr. Like they love.
I didn't know that.
They love the shipping people and cartoons. I've browsed around here and there.
That's funny.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't. And there was nobody that I knew that was like me.
Right.
And I just thought that either everybody in the world was lying about this thing called physical attraction, or I didn't have it. Right. And when I moved to seminary, I had a yet another classmate who was a really great friend of mine, and 44 years old, and a statistician, and like super shy and super dorky and super awkward, and chubby and hairy, and we fell in love. And that's what happened. And my going from my becoming gay was great, because it was like, at least I had something that I could hold. I like gay, you have meat to it. You can understand it. You can find a community around that. But when I was asexual, it was just like, I felt like a robot,
Yeah. It's like you didn't even know what the flag was, because there is a flag. I didn't. I mean, and there's
we're
a
also,
march as well.
I'm sure. I mean, but this is 2003.
Yeah.
This stuff didn't exist then, So, anyways, so I was really, really super stoked about it. Yeah.
What's a relationship at seminary look like? Does it just
I wouldn't
look
say
like
that we were in. I'll tell you what this relationship.
I should say,
looked like.
being in love with this man at seminary. What did that look like?
I'll tell you what it looked like.
Whoa! You guys did not see the eyes he just flashed.
It was. It seemed like an eternity. But it probably
maybe John 3:16.
John 3:16, yeah. No, but it looked like this. It looked like and in retrospect, I do think he was there more to hide. Whereas I had fallen in love, and all of a sudden was feeling these sexual attraction, and I thought it was the best thing ever. I was like, "Holy shit, I'm a human being! Like I was like, fucking let's explore this. Like that's what I'm about. And so he was in love with me and I was in love with him. And this probably happened maybe a half dozen times. It seemed like it happened for forever then, but I probably only lasted a couple months, and it's probably happened a couple times. I would be like getting ready for bed and he would knock on the door and he'd come in and he'd say he was having a really hard day and he was sad or he was frustrated or he, whatever. And if I would hold him, I'd say, okay, yeah, sure. I'll hold you. And then, he'd lay in my bed and I'd hold him, and then holding would turn into petting, and then petting would turn into kissing, and then we'd start making out, and then he would take off my shirt, and then he would take off my pants, and then I would unbutton his shirt and go to open his shirt, and he would freak the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And he would put on his clothes and run out of the room. That's more or less what it looked like. But it looked like it was very innocent. It was very adolescent. Mm-hmm. It was very much the two of us not really understanding what it was at all.
You're on the time delay of the same thing happening when you're 14, 15.
Absolutely.
But it's just you didn't get to even figure that out for
But I'm
5,
23, 24, and he's 44, right? I do remember there was this really funny thing that happened, and I recalled it yesterday. I was doing another podcast, and I walked in the room. In the room, it was like glass doors, and you walk in a glass door, but you can see everything happening in the room, you know? Mm-hmm. And it really reminded me of like this one time we decided, like at one point in time, that we couldn't hang out alone together because we really were in love with each other, and we wanted to be physically affectionate to each other, and then we felt that was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so we would go like meet in public spaces. So we're like reading the Bible in like the library or something like that. And I remember like before we were like in our pajamas too. Yeah. And like before we knew it, we were just like on the floor, like completely going at it, completely making out. And there's no walls, right? It's just like a glass room. Like anybody can look in this seminary. And it was just, it was.
So there's nothing gayer than Catholicism. That's what I've been learning.
Yeah, nothing gayer than Catholicism.
So you get to Yahoo Personals. You and the husband meet.
Yeah, and it was interesting. The day that I left seminary was the day that I met my husband. Mm-hmm. And we were chatting on AOL Instant Messenger. And
throwback.
Yeah, and it was really, really fun, and he was really sweet, and I was having a great conversation. And then I asked, it's funny to think of it this way because everything is picture-based, right? But it wasn't then. And I asked for him to send me a picture. So he sent me a picture via Instant Messenger. So essentially the day that I left seminary, I didn't find a place fast enough, so I still had to stay there that night. Right. And I'm like in this prison that I hate. Everything's falling down. I'm like, no fucking way am I going to find something. That's when I started looking on Yahoo Personal. I'm like, I'm going somewhere else tonight to sleep. He sends me his picture, which was probably the worst picture he's ever taken in his life, on some horrible old pixelated cell phone. And I kind of was like,
okay.
And so I said, I've had a really nice time chatting, but I don't think this is going to work, more or less, right? Then, like you, Craigslist guy, I'm sure I answered a Craigslist ad. I think I met this guy on Craigslist, and I went and I spent the night at somebody else's house. And I was insane. I'm so, so grateful that I did not meet my husband that night, because I was insane. I couldn't sleep. We'd go from making love to me crying to me screaming to making love to like over and over. I remember at 3 a.m, going to dinner because I couldn't sleep, and he was great. And his name's Jerry. I haven't really talked to him since then. Like maybe I talked to him like a month later, but he was wonderful. He was loving.
You were screaming?
Caring. Yeah, I was so pissed, man.
Just at the seminary and everything?
At everything.
I'm just imagining being the guy being like, I just put out an ad to get some dick tonight.
Exactly.
And now I'm dealing with a lot of emotion.
But let me tell you something about our community. We are the best people. We are the most compassionate people. We have been broken so many times. Sure. And when this person just wanted to get some dick and he saw my brokenness, he held me in my brokenness, and he held me through one of the darkest nights of my life. And he was wonderful and a generous love maker, a generous listener, a generous person who would stop at 3 a.m, put on clothes, and take me to dinner because he knew I wasn't going to be able to sleep, and then take me back and hold me again. You know, and I can't speak highly enough about this community of people who we have our faults, right? But at the end of the day, we have got each other. And so that was Jerry, and he saved my life that night, you know, and I'll always be grateful for that. And, anyways, yeah. So then probably a week or so later, I reached back out to Mike, my husband, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it was a horrible pick.
It's like, do you have a better pick maybe? Like,
no, I just was like, I really enjoyed talking to you. We talked on the phone. I just love talking to him.
Don't you love a phone call talk?
Yeah.
So underrated today, but I love I'll call my girlfriend randomly just because I'm like, well, I'd rather be talking to someone right now than scrolling through Twitter.
Exactly. And we met in person, and he's so handsome. Okay. So handsome and so wonderful and so sweet.
Bigger guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was it. That was that. You know, I mean,
how do we go from Yahoo Personals to well, you didn't walk in on him in Berlin, right? No.
No.
That was a different.
Yeah, so these are two
Berlin's just where you went and you were finding things.
So essentially, yeah. So we were married. We are married. And we've been together about 10 years. And yeah, I walked in on him with somebody else, more or less. I caught
and that's
him.
after how long together?
A decade.
Wow. And did he admit to any infidelity from previously? Like
he eventually got there, you know, and it's, you know, and it's yeah, there was other infidelities. And so that was an interesting thing to uncover. It was a very difficult thing to uncover. And we talked a lot about it, and although it was really hard for me, you know, I remember laying on my floor just crying, writing the saddest songs and crying. And you know, there was a point where I was going down a path of like, once kind of trust is challenged in that way, you start questioning everything, right? Like, well, and you know, in 2008, you told me this, but then I saw this. Does that equate anymore, right?
I'm reading a book on infidelity right now. I don't really like it too much, but there is a point that she makes about this, how like the cheated upon spouse wants to know all the details, and how like there are counselors who will encourage that you go into every nitty gritty until this person's satisfied. And that apparently is a very American concept.
Okay.
It's a very, apparently like wanting to know all the things, very American. Cause like she would go to these other countries and, you know, and all the people she talked to, they'd be like, why would you want to know more details? Wouldn't that hurt more? It's like Americans want to hurt, like we just want to be in more and more pain.
I think you want to know because you want to understand, right? And I think, well, this is just the fact that our memories are fabricated, right? The things that we remember aren't always true. Yeah. Like things shift as we age, right? So I think for me, I wanted to know information so I could look back at the past and reanalyze those things that happened.
But did you find that helped
it's horrible.
you?
No, I made a conscious decision about a week after to say like, no, I'm going to say that this stuff happened, this infidelity happened, these horrible things happened, but those other things happened too. The ways in which I've loved them and they have been my rock for a decade, they are still my rock, right? And the love that he has for me hasn't also changed as a result of the infidelities. You know, we're talking yin and the yang, right? There's a little bit of the bad and the good, and that's okay. We're not perfect people, right? So I had to really come to that conclusion. And then we went and we opened the relationship, and that was also difficult for me, but that's what he needed at the time.
And how did he express to you after, well, I'll ask this one just so I have the context. How long in between you walking in on him and him proposing open relationship was there?
It was pretty soon.
Okay.
Like I would say that the infidelity and the discovery was Halloween, and I would say,
well, fuck up a costume night.
Yeah, I
thought
know.
that's supposed to be gay Christmas, and then
It was, and
he
that
messes
was
up gay
that was
Christmas.
the point. There was too much candy for him.
So basically, so how does he come to you? Somewhat close.
Well, we
soon
just
after you
started a
discover him?
conversation about
Yeah.
it, and we started going to therapy, and we started to, trying to have a lot of real conversations. And I would say by January, the relationship was open. So you're looking at 2 months.
What's your immediate reaction? Because I could so see you like you've just caught him, and now he's asking you for open relationship. Like I could see you going like "fuck you," or like what was
I mean,
your-
there definitely was that.
Yeah.
It was all of the things.
like how dare you ask to do more of the thing that just broke me?
Exactly. No, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of all of the emotions. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of anger. I'm a very much like, obviously I'm an artist, and I'm an artist that draws from my own life. So I spend a lot of time internalizing and processing. So I did a lot of that. And I did a lot of listening, and I did a lot of really trying to understand why he did what he did. And the thing that was the most, in some ways, the thing that was hardest for me was the knowledge that he didn't feel like he could have this conversation with me. Right. So he was doing something behind my back. And for me, I felt like, I'm not trying to victim blame here. I'm not trying to blame myself in retrospect, but I am trying to say, like, all of us in relationship can look at our actions and be better in one way or another. Sure. And so I think there was probably a closed-mindedness to me about sexuality and non-monogamy that made it hard for him to speak about the struggles that he was having with monogamy at the time.
Yeah. Well, to even express an interest. So many people see the act of asking, and this is something I'll hear from people a lot, is if you just even ask, would you ever consider that? Sometimes the other person will freak out. It's like, what are you talking about? I just asked if you'd maybe I couldn't be more loose in how I'm pitching this. It really threatens some people.
Yeah, and I do think that in a lot of ways, like, I'm a very driven person, and I had become a very driven and rigid person, and I think that that's okay. But I think that it's funny that I'm having this conversation with you, given my ideas of the world or what I thought was the truth for so long. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, I think that my goal is less about the truth now. My goal is more about the questioning.
Interesting. Tell me a little more about that.
I don't, I think for a long time I was figuring out life. Okay, this is how it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, all those other options are out the window, right? Black and white, right and wrong. And I think now
your 20s. I think you just defined everyone in their 20s.
Okay, great.
Right,
that's what it was.
Right? It's like let's
I just held on to that well into my 30s.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm 72.
Okay. Looking great. Yeah. Well, that's what I guess.
I exfoliate.
Yeah. If you were straight, I would have been like, he's probably in his late 30s. But he's gay. It's like, he's got to be like 70.
Yeah. Exactly. You guys
just
don't even know.
You guys are immortal. Everyone's like, they're the devil. It's like the devil's got great skin.
Devil does have great skin. I mean, he has to put the SPF on because it's so hot down there. But no, it was interesting, and I think. I don't remember where we were at, but yeah.
Now you're more focused now on the question. You had a sense of truth and reality, and
look, I'm in a relationship with two people.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. I can look at it every day and say, like, does this work for me in this moment? Are my actions right and positive? Mm-hmm. And if they are, then the rest doesn't really matter. Like, in terms of what the outside world thinks about it, what our social mores and constructs say, right and wrong is in and of itself a construct, right?
So has the non-monogamy just been a Pandora's box of questioning? I mean,
sure.
Have there been new questions about life? And
listen to
reality?
Territories. That's all it is.
I got a couple tracks in. I got a few more left.
Yeah.
I got to find some people to fuck during it.
For sure.
The environment for the album. But it seems like you and your husband's non-monogamous journeys are different.
Yeah.
So he seems to be going more down the.
Well, I think I always, especially at the beginning, was trying to, maybe in the same way that he was trying to ascribe to my monogamous journey, and our non-monogamy, especially early on. I feel like I was always trying to understand the rules so that I could play that game well, right? And Mike is a little more fluid in that, obviously. And so I felt like I was always doing things wrong or misunderstanding, right? And I guess the thing for me is it really should be about an honest conversation more than like, this is the rule here and this is broken here, because we already know what happens in monogamy when the infidelity rule is broken, right? You get a divorce or you resent the person and hold them on a leash for the rest of their life. Right. You know what I mean? It's like those are the common ones. And I come from a broken home. I wasn't interested in having a broken home, and I also wasn't interested in like being really rigid, like ultimatums. That's not really my vibe. I'm much more interested in continuing to love this person and understand how our relationship's going to evolve moving forward and strengthen.
In the period of time, in the negotiating period of time after you walked in on him with this other man, did you think about your parents and about like the
I know that I don't want their relationships. I don't want the relationships that they have with each other, and I don't want the relationships that they have with their new spouses. So I've seen what infidelity does, and I've seen what remarriage does, and the different problems, that my parents have with their new respective partners, and I know that I'd still pick mine any day of the week. And that's what I'm going to keep. That's what I'm going to keep going with. That's
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to create the thing that I think works for me and that I think's happiest. And it's definitely not perfect, but I'm still trying to figure it out.
Can you tell me a bit about Berlin? Not necessarily just the song, but your experience going to Berlin and what inspired the song.
So essentially, what happened is I was on tour. Let me think. I don't even know what year it is at this point in time. And I was on tour, and I had this experience with this gentleman.
This is how long into the non-monogamy?
Probably a year.
Okay.
And it was probably really the first time that I had allowed myself to be free. I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with my guilt.
What do you feel guilty for?
Both about my failures and I told myself that was the one thing. I think a big part of the reason that I'm asexual is I shut that off for myself because of what I went through in terms of my parents' divorce. And I remember walking from my mother's to my father's once and just hating it and just hurting and saying like, I'm never going to be in a relationship. This isn't worth the risk of what like all the well-intended purposes can do to the people, to the offspring in which you create. Right? They weren't trying to hurt me. That wasn't their intention, but I was. And so I was never going to be in a relationship, and I didn't go on a date until I was 24, really. So, I mean, maybe went on 2 dates with girls, and it was just like not even a thing. I didn't even care. It wasn't part of my ecosystem. I didn't do it. And when I found Mike, it was so perfect and so healing and so life-giving and so everything that I couldn't even imagine to dream. I wanted it to be perfect, and I worked for it to be perfect, right? And so when all of a sudden it wasn't perfect, that was really hard for me. It felt like a huge failure. It felt like I was recreating the mistakes that my parents had made, and that was the one thing I had vowed never to do. So I struggled a lot with my guilt about failing in this relationship, and I struggled a lot with my guilt about being intimate with other people. And I was going on tour, and I was going to be away for, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks, something like that. And I just said, and I was going to a couple events that were like bear-centric events that are very sex positive. And I was just like, you know what, Tom, you need to give yourself permission to not judge yourself on this trip. Like, if something feels good, do it. Like, and so that was really hard for me. And so I met this individual in Washington, D.C., and that was really safe for me because I had lived in Washington, D.C. for a decade with my husband, and I had built this life with him there. And when I went back, and I was back for a couple of days, I thought it'd be fun to have a date, but I didn't really want to date anybody that I knew because I thought, again, I'm still hiding. I don't want people to be like, he's changed. You know what I mean? He moved to Los Angeles and he changed.
He came back all polyamorous. Or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Like I was so afraid of what the people would think. And then I met this guy on one of the apps and he was from London and I was like, perfect. Like totally safe. And I went and met with him. We had a wonderful time. At the end of the night, we were just chatting and joking and he had mentioned that, we started talking about the rules of our respective open relationships. And he had a couple of rules. One was like, nobody could spend the night and you couldn't see anybody more than once. Yeah. And it was like 3 a.m. So I was like, motherfucker, I gotta get up and I gotta take an Uber home. I was like, stupid.
But there's also the like, what you're telling me I can't, like if you had a great time, you're telling me we can't.
Yeah, I was
do
super
this again.
disappointed.
That's
yeah.
why I don't like one night stands.
Yeah, I don't. That's me too.
Yeah, because it's like if I liked it, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
I find the pizza place I like. I want to just eat at that pizza place.
Yeah.
Why would I go try a bunch of places? I found one I like. Let's do that over.
I
want
to create. Yeah, I want to create like wonderful long-term relationships that sometimes involve intimacy, and that's really great. So I went home. When I got home, I sent him a text. I was like, "Hey man, it was nice seeing you." I said a couple nice things, and that stuck with him. Just because I didn't, he was like, I essentially just kicked this guy out of my room and he sends me a nice text back. And so about, probably 6 to 8 months later, he texted me and was just like, hey, are you going to be on the East Coast anytime? And I was like, yeah, I scored this film. It's premiering in Toronto. I'll be in Toronto for 4 days at this point in time. But what's up with your rules? And he was like, "Oh, well, we changed them. These are the new rules. We can do this now. We can do this now." I was
Repeats
like,
allowed.
Repeats allowed.
Yay.
Spending the nights allowed.
Yay.
Yay. I was like, cool. Okay, well, I'll see you in Toronto. He's like, I'm going to be in New York. I'll swing by Toronto before, and then I'll see you. So we had a great time in Toronto. It was really great to see him. It was really great to spend the night with him. And then when I was leaving, he was like, if you want to come to Europe, let me know. We can just do it for the weekend. I have lots of miles. It's no big deal. Don't feel pressure. And I was like, cool. So so then I talked to my husband. And that was difficult because it was different. There's always these new things that come up, and I was more. He was very uncomfortable by it. This is where the shifting of the discomfort starts.
Yeah, I think if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, "Well, motherfucker."
Yeah, but that doesn't really accomplish
work,
anything.
But in my mind, that's where
I've definitely thought that a lot of times.
You have to be approaching him to ask him this, thinking, if he says no, I swear to fucking God, like the wheels got to kind of turn in your head.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really put it like that, but there are points where I'm like, I don't think your logic's really working here. But yeah, and it was like, for me, it was like, hey, look, this whole thing is about having these new experiences. This seems weird to hop on a plane to go to Berlin for like 48 hours and come back, but it seems cool. Like, that's a badass opportunity. I've never been to Berlin, so let's, that actually Berlin wasn't even in the books. It was like, then that's so much negotiating. It's like, just go to Europe. And he's like, well, these are the places I want to go with you. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, these are the cities that I can do. And Berlin was one of them. It seemed easy to get to. And so I hopped in the plane. I went to Berlin. We spent 48 hours together. It was magical. It was obvious. There was 2 nights. And the first night, I got there, we hung out for a couple hours, went to dinner, came home, made love. It was really wonderful. And then he said, it feels really weird, but I want to say night love, because he's like British. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I always just say thank you to things, right? And that was great. And then the next night we just had the most wonderful, magical day and evening. And again, like we're like making love and we just finished making love. And he just goes, I love you. And I go, I love you too. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Right? And the same, I wake up the next morning, pack my bags. I walk out of the room and like, I do the same thing. Like he goes, I love you. As I'm leaving, and I say, I love you too. And I get in that elevator and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do now, and that's really what, and I had written Berlin. The interesting thing about this record is I wrote Berlin in that experience. I was writing it while I was having it. I remember one time we were making love and I had written the first verse and the second verse. And then we were making love, and as I was making love, I said, "Excuse me, we gotta stop." And I went over to the side of the bed, and I wrote down, "And our naked bones and our fragile souls, like moth to a flame, they can't help but collide, they can't help but imbibe the truth only seen through the eyes of a lover."
The comedian version is so much less romantic. Because
Why?
like, hold on, I gotta get over, and you're naked, you run over to write like a baby. Like, you ever be like fucking, and then this, and then someone farts? It's like, it's so much less romantic.
Yeah.
Whereas in like, he could say like, "What did you write down, babe?" And then you could share it, and it's this beautiful thing. And I would have to share my thing and hope she laughs.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna laugh or be mad.
Yeah. There's no in between. Yeah. No. And that's and that's what happened. And I got in the car to the airport. I wrote the third verse, and almost this entire record was the story. Like, I wrote the story first while I was in the story, while I was super connected to the emotions of the story. And then I went home and I figured out, like, what does Berlin sound like? What does Amsterdam sound like? What does Siem Reap sound like? What do these places, like, what are the tones that we need to work? And Ian Carmichael, who produced the record, just did such a wonderful time, like, just such a wonderful job of listening. And we would have these conversations, and I would tell him, like, about what happened. And he would be like, "Okay, cool." And then he also knew how to paint the visual picture in even a better way than me. So it came out wonderfully. Yeah.
So this British bloke, like, this is the guy who's still your, do you call him boyfriend, partner? Like, how do you refer to him?
I guess I call him my lover more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still over in Europe?
He lives in London, yeah.
So how often do y'all see each other? Because you're in LA, right?
I would say
Based out of LA.
Yeah, I'm in
you
LA.
tour,
I would
but-
say every 6 weeks or so.
Wow.
So it's more frequent than you'd think.
That is wild.
Let me think. So I'm seeing him here in New York.
Beautiful.
I'll see him at the end of February. I think is probably the next time we have space. Mike and I both travel a lot, which makes it easy, and so does he. So there's sometimes when we just happen to be in the same place, which is wonderful. He's here on business, I'm here on business. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, I would say
Every 6 weeks is, for LA and London, is incredible to me, at least.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are very, very lucky.
And y'all two now been together how long?
I don't know. It's a really
Been a
good
few
question.
years?
Couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, because when I met him, I didn't see him again for another 6 months, and there's kind of like, and I think it's also different. If I'm being really honest,
Don't you dare.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I haven't really ever spoke this, but I also feel a lot of guilt, counting it in the same ways as I would with my husband. Like having an anniversary, having those kind of things. I think that also means that there's a certain degree of permanence to it that I think gives me a little guilt, and would certainly give my husband discomfort. So it's probably why I avoid it as well.
Do you feel guilty counting it the same as your husband in like, because
I think it would hurt
the
my
weight of of having anniversaries?
I think
Okay.
I think it would hurt my husband's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the current state of the marriage? Because again, like, your husband's doing more the sexual component, it sounds like. And
I mean,
correct me
he
if I'm wrong.
certainly has regular people.
Regulars, but it seems like it's not romantic.
It's not as, and my husband and I just approach the world a little differently.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
And then you are seem down more the romantic side of non-monogamy.
Exactly.
And so what is the current state of things? How
I
are you
feel
guys
like
doing?
really good. I feel like
Yeah.
we're in a strong place. It's always there's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of, I think the interesting thing about non-monogamy that doesn't happen as much with monogamy is there's a lot of triggers that are constantly hit. In monogamy, you can be like, okay, let's just stay out of that area, right?
I think the triggers are hit just as often in monogamy, but they just don't talk about it. Like, that's everyone goes
I think
like,
there's truth to that too.
yeah, everyone's like, oh, like don't you get jealous? Like, yeah, we get jealous, and you get jealous too. We talk about it.
Yeah,
and y'all should talk about it.
You get
too.
jealous when they look at a magazine funny,
Right.
Right.
And y'all should. It's not bad that anyone's jealous. You should just talk about it.
Yeah, I do feel like there's nothing off the table, and that makes me happy because it's like, I do feel like that I can have any conversation with my husband, and whether it's hard or not, we can do it.
And clearly, this album's got a lot of emotion and heart in it. And how did Mike, right?
Yeah.
How did Mike feel listening to it for the first time?
It's as muddy as everything in the world. He loves the record. He thinks it's my best work. He thinks it's really interesting and evocative, and he thinks musically it's really great. But there are times when it's hard for him to listen to it. I have a whole new show. It's very different than my other show that I was doing for so long, and he loves it, but it's hard for him to watch.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to listen to some of these songs. And La Bufadora came out, and that video came out, and we touched a lot on domestic abuse. The video's about domestic abuse, and that's not my story, right? But that's the story we were telling there. That's a story that I think hit home for a lot of people, and people don't talk about domestic abuse in same-sex relationships, and it applied really,
especially amongst men, because
especially amongst
men can't abuse men. The other guy just has to hit back.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that was really hard for Mike, and I probably did a couple things wrong, and he feels like how the world perceives him has changed. And I don't know if it has or not. Maybe it has for some people and maybe it hasn't for other people. Yeah. But I do think that's a very real and honest reaction to a song and a video when everybody knows he's my husband, Yeah. So.
Well, it seems like y'all got a real good hold of things and are really able to, talk your shit out. I mean, thank you you've been very honest, and it's been a very beautiful story to learn here, where all I got was a press release. So I try not to do too much research, and so I get to kind of experience the surprise.
I should have only read from the press release, huh? That'd have been more
No, dude. When he said "I love you" as you're walking out the door, I almost cried. It's because I know that the first "I love you" is what that was, but that second one as you're leaving the door is him checking. Was that just like an in the bed moment, or is this like, is he going to say it back and that means it's real?
Yeah,
and that's the really emotion. That second one's the one that I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's one thing beautiful. To be like a little faded, making love, like a little tipsy, doing your thing, say I love you, whatever. There's another thing to wake up in the morning, be totally sober, have the light shining on your face, and say the same thing. Right. Like there's the two things there's the impact's much different.
And that's when we learn, like, was that fantasy or is this reality? And it's really awesome when you find out it is reality. And like I said, I mean, it's got me emotional right now. So I appreciate you sharing the story. So beautiful. In fact, that like sometimes I'll be like, bonus episode ideas, but I'm like, no, I got it. I almost want to like go sit in my car and ruminate on the conversation. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where can they find the record?
It's all Tom Goss Music, right? So if you're on a website, it's tomgossmusic.com, Instagram Tom Goss Music, Facebook Tom Goss Music, Twitter Tom Goss Music, YouTube Tom Goss Music, and the record is Tom Goss. So whatever.
And the record again is called
Territories. So if you're on Spotify, just Google Tom Goss. If you're on Apple Music, Tom Goss. It's all Tom Goss.
Fantastic, man. Yeah. Well, you're seeing your lover while you're in town, right?
Yeah.
Well, enjoy that. And it was fantastic talking to you. Why don't you say goodbye to everybody?
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Go check out Tom Goss on social media. Go listen to his new album, Territories. I'm telling you, you can fuck to this music. I already have. Also, go check out Simone's book, Playing Monogamy. She's also a good follow on the Twitter. Of course, you should be following me on social media. I'm on Twitter at @TheBillyPresida. I am also on Instagram, where we just passed 1,000 followers. Hey, yo! You go follow me on Insta at BillyIsPresida. And if you enjoy really fun little quirky sex positive memes, go like the Man Whore Podcast Facebook page. You didn't know we had a Facebook page, did you? Well, we do. And we actually put stuff on it. We're not like one of those people who says, oh, and can you like us on Facebook just so our numbers are high? It's like, no, girl, we're going to provide you some value and some good times. So go search Man Whore Podcast on Facebook. Click that like button. And if you want to send me an email with your comments, your questions, your booby pictures, your criticisms, you can send any of that on over to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Next week, I know I said last week we're going to have April Lampert on this week, but we wanted to coordinate the release of our episodes on our respective shows. So next week, you will hear the co-host of the Shameless Sex podcast, April Lampert, on here. And next week, you can also hear me on their show, Shameless Sex. That was a fun one. They were very curious about the group sex stuff. I hope you'll check it out. And I hope you will help us reach 600 patrons for 6 years of podcasting on April 16th. You can become a member today or, just sometime before April 16th at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. I'm saving this little tidbit to just reward those of you who listen all the way through to the end. But oh gosh, last night was so fun because I went to a failed gangbang, but this time it was like the better version of a failed gangbang. Because if y'all remember, I've been to a failed gangbang because like the chick didn't show up. And it was just a bunch of dudes jerking off together awkwardly, waiting to see if she's ever going to walk in the door. And then she doesn't. And then it's just a race to see like who's going to throw in the towel and leave first. Well, no, this time it was just more like all the other dudes bailed, so I got to have her all to myself one-on-one, and it was awesome. So may you all have failed sexual experiences that still turn out to be dope this week. Stay slutty.
My name is Justin Erickson. I joined the Man Whore Podcast Patreon because the podcast fights for sex positivity in a way that is entertaining, thought-provoking, and shocking. Billy Procita's focus has evolved into bringing together knowledge and experiences from all corners of our sexual society, helping normalize and advocate for all of us that have been shamed for our desires, for who we are. Billy's authenticity shines in his vulnerability to share his own journey through love, sex, and issues that he cares deeply about. The Man Whore Podcast has been the best show I've added to my digital library, encouraging me to explore my needs and desires. Just as anyone who creates something with this much passion and need, Billy earns every dollar he receives and more. If you get half of what I value from the Man Whore Podcast, please join his Patreon today.